My girlfriend made a post saying, "Toxic trait. Dating a guy who peaked in high school," and she used a picture of my old football jersey. I replied, "Toxic trait. Dating someone you're ashamed of." After that, I packed up her belongings and dropped them off at her sister's place. When her sister phoned me, she said, "Honestly, can't blame you. She didn't just call me a guy who peaked in high school. She made sure everyone saw it." The post was still glowing on my phone screen at midnight. Her words sat there like a verdict. Toxic trait. Dating a guy who peaked in high school. Underneath it was a photo I hadn't seen in years, me at 17, wearing my old football jersey, smiling like I believed life would keep its promises. But what hurt wasn't the picture. It was the comments. Her friends laughing. Strangers agreeing. Someone wrote, "He still talks about those days, doesn't he?" She had liked that one. I was sitting at the edge of our bed when I saw it. Her side was empty. Her perfume lingered faintly in the air, mixed with the stale quiet of a place that suddenly didn't feel like mine. She wasn't here to see it. She wasn't here to explain. She had humiliated me in front of everyone and gone to sleep peacefully somewhere else. My hands didn't shake. My chest didn't tighten. I just stared at the screen until the brightness dimmed, and something inside me dimmed with it. I met her 3 years after high school, when nobody remembered my touchdowns anymore, except me. By then, I was working early mornings at a logistics company, wearing steel-toe boots instead of cleats. My life had become quiet, predictable. No crowds, no cheering. Just invoices, schedules, and responsibility. She said she liked that about me. She told people I was grounded. She'd rest her head on my shoulder and say she felt safe. I believed her because she saw me when nobody else did, or at least I thought she did. But slowly I noticed the small shifts. When her friends asked what I did, she'd answer for me, her voice casual, dismissive. "He works in shipping." She never mentioned that I'd worked my way up, that I supervised 30 people, that I paid most of our rent without complaint. When conversations turned to ambition, she'd glance at me briefly, then away, like I didn't belong in that part of her future. I told myself it didn't matter. I told myself love wasn't about being impressive. But looking back, I realized I had been shrinking quietly, making myself easier to carry, easier to explain. And somewhere along the way, she stopped seeing the man I had become and only saw the boy she could outgrow. It didn't happen all at once. It happened in moments small enough to ignore. At dinner with her friends, someone asked how we met. She smiled and said, "He was the high school football star." Her tone was light, almost amused. She didn't mention the years after. She didn't mention the man sitting beside her. They looked at me like I was a story that had already ended. Sometimes, when I talked about work, about problems I'd solved, decisions I'd made, she'd nod without really listening. Her eyes would drift to her phone, her thumb moving slightly, like my words couldn't compete with whatever lived behind her screen. Once, at a party, I overheard her talking in the kitchen. She didn't know I was there. "He's comfortable," she said. Comfortable. Not strong, not dependable, not respected. Just easy. On the drive home, she rested her hand on my arm like nothing had happened. Her touch was warm, familiar. Anyone watching would have thought we were steady. But I stared at the road and realized something quiet and permanent. She wasn't holding on to me. She was leaning on me while she looked for somewhere else to stand. The night she made that post, I didn't confront her. I didn't call. I didn't text. I didn't ask for an explanation she had already given to the world. Instead, I opened her profile and saw something I hadn't noticed before. Not just that one post, but the pattern behind it. Subtle jokes, small dismissals, little pieces of me turned into entertainment. And the worst part was how easy it had been for her. She hadn't hesitated. She hadn't wondered if it would hurt me. She had simply decided I was safe to disrespect. I sat there for a long time, listening to the low hum of the refrigerator and the faint traffic outside the window. The apartment felt different, smaller, temporary. For years I had worked quietly, built stability, paid bills on time, fixed things when they broke. I had mistaken loyalty for love. But loyalty without respect is just slow erosion. I realized then that nothing I said would restore what she had already thrown away. Respect isn't negotiated, it's observed. And in that moment, without anger or hesitation, I understood something with complete clarity. I wasn't losing her. I was finally seeing her. I didn't act immediately. I slept. Not well, but enough to let the emotion drain out and leave only clarity behind. In the morning, I made coffee and opened my laptop. Our lease agreement was in my name. I had signed it 2 years earlier because her credit was still recovering from missed payments. At the time, she'd thanked me, said it made her feel secure. Now, it made things simple. I reviewed everything carefully. Utilities were under my accounts. Internet, electricity, even the parking permit. There was nothing shared that couldn't be separated cleanly. I wasn't trying to hurt her. I was removing myself from a place where I wasn't respected. I found a set of storage boxes in the hallway, closet, and began folding her clothes the same way she used to, neatly, without wrinkles. Dresses first, then sweaters, then the small things people forget until they're gone. Each item went into a box with quiet precision. No notes, no accusations, no explanations. Just order. Halfway through, I paused and looked around the apartment. For the first time in years, it felt honest. Not like a shared life, but like something that was finally becoming mine again. I chose a time when I knew she wouldn't be home. The afternoon was grey and still, the kind of day where nothing feels urgent. I carried the boxes down one at a time, my footsteps steady against the concrete stairs. Her life reduced to manageable weight. Her sister's apartment was across town. She had always been kinder, quieter, someone who noticed more than she said. She opened the door before I could knock twice. Her eyes moved from my face to the boxes in my hands. She didn't ask questions. She just stepped aside and let me in. I placed everything carefully near the wall. Not dumped, not abandoned, returned. This is hers, I said simply. She nodded, like she understood more than I'd spoken. On the drive back, my phone buzzed. Her name filled the screen. Once, twice, again. I didn't answer. At a red light, I opened her post one last time. My reply sat beneath it, calm and permanent. Toxic trait. Dating someone you're ashamed of. No insults, no drama, just truth. By the time I reached the apartment, the post was gone. But what it had revealed couldn't be deleted. Her sister called that evening. I let it ring once before answering. "She's here," she said. Her voice wasn't angry, just tired. She didn't expect this. I didn't respond. There was nothing left to explain. After a pause, she added quietly, "Honestly, can't blame you." That stayed with me longer than anything else. Over the next few days, I noticed the silence spreading. Mutual friends stopped tagging us together. Invitations came addressed only to me, not out of loyalty but recognition. People adjust quickly when the truth becomes visible. She sent messages at first, short ones. "Can we talk? This isn't how I wanted things to end." Later, longer ones. I didn't mean it like that, but meaning isn't measured by intention. It's measured by action. At work, nothing changed, and that was the point. My team still came to me with questions. They still trusted my decisions. My life hadn't been built on her approval. It had been built on consistency. What she lost wasn't a high school version of me. She lost the man who stayed when leaving would have been easier. And people don't always realize the value of quiet loyalty until they're standing in the silence it leaves behind. Weeks later, the apartment felt different. Not empty, honest. Her favorite mug was gone from the kitchen shelf. The extra shoes weren't by the door. The air didn't carry the faint tension I had learned to ignore. What remained was mine. Every corner earned, every quiet moment undisturbed. I stopped checking her profile. Not because I was trying to prove something, but because I no longer needed to see who she was becoming without me. Instead, I focused on small things. Morning runs before work. Cooking meals I actually liked. Sitting on the balcony at night, listening to the city breathe without feeling like I was waiting for permission to belong somewhere. For the first time in a long while, I wasn't shrinking. I wasn't performing a role or preserving someone else's comfort. I was just existing, fully and without apology. She had thought my best days were behind me, that my value was something frozen in an old photograph. But she had never seen the quiet strength it took to rebuild yourself without applause. Some people mistake silence for weakness. They don't realize it's often the sound of someone finally choosing themselves and walking away without looking back.